But yeah, the challenge is over, and I did it, and I guess if you want to see me try to do this in Act 3, if this video gets over 10,000 views, I'll do that. So, I probably won't have to do that, I'm guessing. Why, hello there, old sports, and, well, it appears I underestimated you all by about 7 times. I'm being legitimately honest when I was saying that I thought that video was only going to get like 2,000 or 3,000 views. I am blown out of the water. And I know this video is going to get much less views than the original because it is like a sequel. But honestly, even if only 10% watch this video, even if this video only gets 10% as the last video, that's still 7,000 views, so that's good enough for me. Anyways, speaking of the challenge, there was a few things that I didn't really put in the last video that I did do, like a few bosses I kind of glossed over because I did defeat them in order to get materials for the nail upgrade, or a mask shard here and there, but I didn't feel like they were really relevant to the challenge as much. I just thought it was funnier to be like, and then I got another mask, and I failed for another 4 hours, then I got another mask, and I finally won. You get the joke. I actually ended up accidentally deleting that save that I did that first video on, because I didn't ever think the video was going to get 10,000 views, so I just deleted the save to work on a different challenge. But, as we've already established, I was incorrect, so I had to replay the whole game over again, and this time, as you can see on screen, I decided to fight the last judge, because, well, first of all, you need to fight the last judge to get access to Nyleth and Seth, and then also you need to defeat the last judge to get the fleas moved there so they can move into Fleetopia, which is one of the requirements for accessing Act 3 in the first place. If you were to ask me which boss between Phantom and the last judge was harder for this challenge, I would definitely say the judge, just because at least with Phantom they have some openings, or they have like longer cooldowns between their attacks when they have to like push up their mask and do that little animation. But the last judge can kind of chain attacks together, and specifically the one where they kind of swing the incense burner like around them in a circle for a few seconds, even before they start like having the fire waves. That attack can be really punishing if you're too close and you can't get far away in enough time, so it's better to just try to be more careful and not go as balls to the wall. Honestly, one of my favorite things about this challenge is since you can't heal, you actually have to learn how to dodge the enemy's attacks, and you can't just kind of brute force them. You have to just learn how to weave in and out of their attacks, and I feel like that's a lot more satisfying when you eventually do win, kind of like a Dark Souls boss. Regardless, we win and move on to Act 2. Also, yes, I am aware you can deactivate the Claw Maidens by finding that secret room and cutting the silk away, which causes them not to spawn anymore. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first challenge, because it would have made things substantially easier. I was just being stupid, I guess. And the funny part is, when I did that for this run, it didn't really end up making that much of a difference. Looking back at the old footage I have, honestly, the Silk Maidens, or the Claw Maidens, weren't as big of a problem as like some of the other enemies, most notably the little guys who throw bells at you. Those guys are really annoying. But yeah, it was not that helpful, but it was slightly helpful, so I guess it's better than nothing, so I don't know why I'm complaining. And I just wanted to point this out because so many people commented about that on the last video, so I thought I'd say, yes, I am aware you can do that, and I guess it wasn't that helpful, but I still did anyways, thank you. After collecting the melodies, defeating Lace, and doing a lot more side quests that are too tedious to go over right now, I decided now is as good a time as ever to go kill Groal the Great and get the soul that he holds. That was a weird sentence. Now, one might think that going through bile water without being able to heal would be hellish, and you would be correct, but part of what makes bile water so bad in the first place is the fact that you can get the maggot status effect, which blocks one of your heals, so you have to waste a whole bind just to get rid of the maggots. But other than that, if you're not using silk anyways, the maggot effect is pretty much something you can just ignore. Hint hint, cursed status effect. I made sure to grab the secret bench halfway through bile water, and then I just fought Groal, and first of all, I made sure to just take advantage of the needle art, which I got because I had to defeat the conch flies to get access to the sands area to get the ingredient for the gourmet dish, as well as I'm going to need it later if I want to get one of the hearts, or I need access to that area, I mean. The needle art actually changes depending on which crest you have equipped, and conveniently enough, while we have the Witch's Crest, or the Cursed Crest in this case, we do a Cyclone Slash-esque attack, and you can even mash the attack button to make it last longer, and this attack is very good. It's probably the best attack we have available to us that isn't Clawline, so that's one good upside that the Cursed Crest has, I guess. Not that, I mean, like, it's one that the Witch Crest also has as well, and you can kind of heal and use tools with that one, so technically it's not really an upside of the Cursed Crest as much of it is the lack of a downside. If you don't care about healing during the fight like I do in this case, you can actually use the Maggot Water to your advantage, because it's kind of treated as a hazard, so what you can do is you can use it to dodge attacks or to hide in the water while Groal does his, like, inhale attack and you won't get pulled into him. It's just convenient because, again, there's not really a downside to falling in the water, so we might as well use it to our advantage. Thankfully, Groal isn't that bad. It's mostly the gauntlet you have to face before fighting him that's annoying, but thankfully he goes down somewhat easily, especially due to the fact that we can just jump and use our nail art at him, or needle art, apologies. And he goes down, and we claim his soul. Or technically, the soul he stole. I'm on a roll. I'm out of rhymes. Okay, so looking back at the video, some people did not appreciate the Grandmother Silk cop-out joke, and they were feeling like I kind of robbed them of seeing the boss fight. So here's this boss fight, and you'll notice I don't have the Cursed Crest, I have the Witch's Crest on because I need to use the Silk Snare thingy, and I need to have a normal crest to actually do that. So I just used the Witch's Crest and then didn't equip any tools and didn't use Bind at all throughout the fight. So I was basically using like a pseudo Cursed Crest. I was having all the same effects of a Cursed Crest without actually having it on, if that makes any sense. Just because obviously this is something where the game is hard-coded to not let you do this with the Cursed Crest, so I just decided that I'll use a pseudo Cursed Crest to get past this, and then once I get back into Act 3, I'll switch my crest back in my save file, and then we'll continue on from there. Speaking about lore for a moment, I've seen some people argue that they think Grandmother Silk is kind of a disappointing final boss, and I think that's kind of the point. It's supposed to leave you wanting more, therefore you go look for Act 3, and then you play Act 3, and you get to all the really fun bosses, because half of the best bosses in this game are in Act 3. And by that I mean Karmelita and Lost Lace, but anyways. Unfortunately, this time around, I was neither able to defeat Grandmother Silk on my first attempt, or do it without getting hit. I guess I was just not on my A-game here. But I was able to eventually defeat her, and bada boom, Act 3, yada yada yada. Why did I write that in the script? I need to probably write these scripts a little better, or I should at least probably go over them a few more times, because honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm probably just writing a rough draft, and then I'm like, well, good enough, when I should be being better, I'm sorry. The Bell Eater is the first taste of what Act 3 of Silksong has to offer us, and it makes a pretty good first showing of how terrible this is going to be. The Bell Eater will punish your bad positioning, so you need to always be cognizant of where you are and where the boss is, or else you will get cornered, and you will get hit by some sort of projectile that you have no way of dodging, because again, bad positioning. It can also be difficult to hit the boss due to where its only vulnerable spots are on its hitbox, so you need to make sure not to hit the metallic part where your nail will do no damage. So what I usually would try to do is use the Cyclone Needle Art to just chip away at it, because again, it's easier to hit things in the air, I feel like, with that than trying to hit multiple, like, normal swings. And I feel like it worked pretty well. I defeated this boss on my 4th try, which might not be a good thing, but I'm not sure, because I'm one of the only people stupid enough to do this. When it comes to the boss itself, you want to try to attack its tail end more than its head end, because the head will kind of do that, like, slashy attack where it just swings its legs, mandibles around and tries to hit you, while the tail will always spit acid at you. So it's easier to hit it, and it's easier to dodge projectiles, because when the head spits acid, it just sprays it everywhere, while the tail only, like, shoots a few globs at a time that are pretty predictable. With the Scourge of the Bellways defeated, I was free to grab all of the stuff I needed for Act 3, so by that I mean I just went down to the Abyss, got the Silk Sword, talked to the Shamans, got the quest for the Hearts, and then from there, I just ended up getting some materials I needed, aka mask shards, and I rescued the last few fleas I needed to get the last pale oil to upgrade my nail one last time. Now, I don't really have time to do the minigames right now, so I'm not doing that. But now we have a choice to make. There are 4 hearts in the game, and 3 are needed to complete the ritual to get the Everbloom. First of all, the Pollen Heart from Nyleth is an easy choice for one of the hearts we should go after. And so is the Hunter's Heart from Karmelita. So now I need to make a choice on whether I should go through the Coral Tower to get the Encrusted Heart from Crust King Khann, or if I should do the Green Prince side quest in Lost Virginia to fight the Clover Dancers and get the Conjoined Heart from them. For now, I'm going to leave that as a surprise, and I'm going to go after Karmelita's heart first, because she's probably going to be more challenging than Nyleth and Seth, so might as well just get her out of the way earlier. Okay, so speaking of Karmelita, she is my favorite boss in the game, and definitely my favorite boss in this challenge, but I'm not sure how much those two things overlap, because I might think she's the best fight in this challenge, because I also think she's the best fight in the game, but that's besides the point. First of all, the first major roadblock when even trying to get the heart in the first place is the few waves of ants you have to deal with before fighting Karmelita herself, and honestly they probably cause more resets than Karmelita herself, because what ended up happening is if I ended up going under a certain HP threshold, I would just give up and restart. So honestly, the ants probably caused me to restart more than Karmelita did, because the ants can just be annoying because you have to deal with multiple things at once instead of just one well-designed enemy. Because sometimes it feels like when you're doing these enemy mob waves, it feels like they're taking enemies that were meant to be fought individually, but again, they don't really work when you just shove them all in a room. Kind of like Godskin Duo from Elden Ring. Those two bosses work fine on their own, but when you just smush them together with no interaction, it just feels awkward and janky. Especially the heavy ants that came in, the flying ones with the huge clubs, those guys tended to do a lot of damage to me, but thankfully on this winning attempt here, I didn't actually take any damage to them, so that was good. It was mostly just getting rid of the first one that was the problem. Once one went down, the other was easy to deal with. When Karmelita herself joins the battle, that's when things get really fun, and I realized that using Claw Line in this fight is probably the best option here, and then to just kind of, when she gets too close, then just strike her with the normal attack to get her to back off. And then, this may just be me being stupid, but I swear she only blocks when she does her spinning animation where she's spinning her blades around. If you hit her during that, depending on what part of the animation she's in, I think that's when she does the block, but I could be wrong. She might just do it at random, which would be annoying, but I like to think there is some method behind it because that would make this fight better. But even if that is random, I still love this fight. And I realized that basically you would get 1 or 2 staggers per phase. So on the second stagger, that's usually when she would phase transition. So right now she's in phase 2 of 3, and this is where she starts to throw out more blades in her aerial attack as well as her grounded attack. And then she also gets this bone rush attack where she runs across the ground and then pulls up a bunch of spikes. And again, right now I'm just trying to use Claw Line as much as I can, and then just, like I said, strike her when she gets too close, and then force her to back off. It's also just good to keep track of what attack she's doing, and obviously I fought her so many times trying to do this that I kind of memorized her tells. But yeah, also something I picked up on is when she's running across the ground, you don't want to try to down pogo her, because what ends up happening is sometimes you'll get caught on the hitbox and that will make you take damage, so usually when she did that attack I would just try to play defensively. Phase 3 is pretty much the same as Phase 2 in terms of attacks, she just moves faster, so it's not that much worse, it's just a little stressful as at this point your health is going to be much lower than you were at the beginning of the fight, and nerves are going to start getting to you because obviously you've been, well, I'm speaking like you would be doing this, but at this point my nerves were really rough because I was like, oh gosh, is this it? Is this the attempt? You kind of just need to make sure to not get in your way when your nerves are getting bad, but that's a whole nother skill that's kind of unrelated to Silksong, that's just a good skill in general. You can see as the fight starts to come to close, I start to play a lot more defensively because I only have 1 or 2 hits left. I can take one more full power attack at 3 HP, but once I get hit here, I would be in danger no matter what hit me afterwards. So yeah, even though I only took 1 mask of damage there, it put me into 2 masks, which means if she hits me with a full power attack, I'm dead. But luckily, the fight is almost over, and Karmelita's heart. Okay, I was trying to time this well, but I didn't time it right, so yeah, the heart is mine. Really good fight. Yeah. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Moving on to the Pollen Heart, Seth was much more of a threat than Nyleth was, and honestly, I guess that makes sense. He was put there to protect her memorial, but then again, who there was even going to be able to go into the memory and claim her heart? The whole thing is confusing. My point is that Seth is a really good boss, but it's not one that you can kind of rush through. It's one you have to play defensively, because he's playing defensively as well. Since Seth uses a shield, he's going to end up blocking a lot of your attacks and then counterattacking, so you have to wait till there's a clear opening to strike him, and then otherwise you just want to wait for him to attack. The best opportunity I found for this is when he does his slam attack, because he always follows it up with a lunge forward, so usually you can get a down pogo there, and then sometimes you can even hit him after he stops lunging, or dashing, whatever term you prefer to use. Once Seth enters phase 2, he'll start comboing more of his attacks together, as well as he'll do the slam multiple times, so usually he'll only do 3, but sometimes he'll do 1. I haven't really ever seen him do 2 slams. It's usually either 1, 3, or maybe 5. I think I've seen that once or twice. Regardless, Seth is a great boss, but ultimately he's not what we're here for. He's just a guardian, guarding the real objective we came here for. But unfortunately, she's not as interesting. I do think it's funny that Seth has Nyleth's theme when I associate it much more with him than her. Nyleth was probably the second easiest heart boss I faced, and that's just because she's relatively simple compared to the other heart bosses. Or ironically, she is the simplest heart boss, but she was the second easiest for this challenge. All of her attacks are extremely choreographed, so as long as you can understand which animation corresponds with which attack, you'll be able to get out of the way very easily. And something I found useful was to just hit her once or twice, then move away, and then use Claw Line to close the distance, because obviously that damages her, and then it gets you close to her so you have enough time to strike before she does another attack. So this fight, like I said, was pretty easy. It did take me 3 or 4 tries though, which I think is kind of silly. I guess I just wasn't playing very well, but you can see here in the footage on the attempt I did win, I only got hit once, so that's funny. The fight doesn't even really get more difficult when she destroys the floor, because you can just use Claw Line if you don't feel confident enough in your pogoing skills, so you have options here. So it's not too difficult, you'll get it eventually. Again, I don't know why I'm phrasing this like this is a tutorial, you're not going to end up doing this. I'm the only one stupid enough to do this. Correction, I'm one of the only ones stupid enough to do this. Ultimately, I decided to go after the Clover Dancers for my 3rd heart. And while Virginia was kind of annoying, thankfully, your progress is kept between deaths, so I could just keep throwing myself at it slowly and slowly, getting the memory orbs until eventually I unlocked the little castle, kingdom, capital thingy, and then from there I could fight the dancers. And I actually ended up defeating the dancers on my first try somehow. I'm not sure either. Due to some other challenges I've attempted, I've gotten very familiar with how the Cogwork Dancers moves, and the Clover Dancers are just an upgraded version of them, so eventually you kind of get used to it. And thankfully you don't have to worry about the split health, or splitting damage between both copies or both robots, because here you only can hit one of the dancers, so you can just focus on him. Also, if you're having difficulty dealing with the Cyclone Embrace attack, just make sure to use the Claw Line to avoid it, because that makes it much easier, because if you try to jump over it or run past it, yes, you probably will get caught. But if you just use Claw Line, that moves you horizontally fast enough to where you can get out of the way of the wind. The Clover Dancers were a nice way to end off the heart hunt. With that, I have 3 hearts in my possession, and I can go back to the Snail Shamans and conduct the ritual to enter the red memory and claim the Everbloom so I can go defeat the Void. Yep, there's definitely not anything else I should do first. Anyways, Crust King Khann. Now, I don't know why I did this. There was no reason for me to do it, but I did it anyways. this like tacked on another 10 hours of playtime onto my save file, which I think is funny, because I feel like a good 8 or 9 hours of this was spent on just like the beginning waves. Once you got to the checkpoint, it was easy to... It wasn't as nerve-wracking because I knew I could die and I could skip some floors, and I only had to do one floor and then the boss. But before that, it was just really stressful because it was just so tedious having to go through the beginning waves over and over, and you got frustrated, and then you'd make mistakes, and then that would screw you over later when you get to the harder waves. It was a whole thing. After breaking the spike that lets you skip some floors, I actually took a break, and when I came back, I actually had a lot of fun doing that last wave and the boss, because I feel like the last wave is challenging enough, and then the boss is simple enough to where it doesn't really punish you too hard. You can understand the boss's moveset pretty quickly, you can pick up on how he works. And I know some people say that they think Khann is kind of disappointing because he's too easy, but first of all, Khann was supposed to be an earlier game boss than he ended up being, and second of all, if you had to go through like 5 or 6 waves of enemies just to get mollywopped by the boss, then people would be complaining about how the boss is too hard after such a difficult gauntlet. So I feel like this is kind of a you can't win scenario for some people, because some fans want it to be easier, some fans want it to be harder, but that's besides the point. Again, the needle cyclone slash art thingy is very helpful here because it allows you to hit multiple enemies, and it allows you to do a lot of damage very quickly. So that's really good. It's also good to where you can try to knock enemies into the coral, or in the case of this last floor, spikes, because that will do a lot of damage, or just straight out kill them. Like I just mentioned, Khann is also pretty easy, because you can understand his attacks pretty quickly, and the only thing that changes is that he gets like 1 or 2 new attacks, and then he starts doing them faster, and then he starts doing them even faster to the point where they start to overlap, and at that point you can't hit him as often, but you can still sneak in attacks every once in a while. And once he enters that phase, his health is pretty low anyway, so he's going to go down pretty quickly. Honestly, the first few waves, awful, but after I broke the spike and unlocked the skip, this was actually pretty fun. What that says about me as a person, I'm not sure. That's up for you to decide. Anyways, let's go fight Lost Lace. Well, this is it, the final boss. Also, just like with Grandmother Silk earlier, I had to change my crest to the Witch's Crest because you can't jump into the Lake of Void with the Cursed Crest, so that's my bad. Or I guess it's not really my bad, I couldn't really do anything here, I'm just explaining why I have the Witch's Crest here. Anyways, Lost Lace is very difficult, and since we only have 10 health, we technically only have 5 health because each of our attacks do 2 damage, including contact damage. So we can only make 4 mistakes until we're at quote-unquote 1 HP. So ideally, if we have to lose any health, we only want to lose 1 per phase, because there's 4 phases, one where the starting phase, after she laughs, after she goes under and the first Void Wave attack happens, and then when she starts doing her flurry, like, glow attack. This fight is very brutal, as you could probably imagine, but since you have to get used to fighting Lace beforehand, you already know half of her moveset already. And ironically, I feel like there's more openings as the fight goes on. Mostly when she does that one where she spits like 6 or 7 like void like blobs that land on the ground and then kind of lash out at you. While she's in the air like spitting those out, you can hit her 2 or 3 times, which is usually you can only get 1 or 2 hits on her at or like 2 hits on her at most. So it's a good opportunity to do damage. And then also make sure to watch out for the Void Wave attack where one comes from the left to right, then right to left, because that can hit you if you're not careful. There's also the attack where she'll summon the 3 like spears that come down at you from the sky, and you only want to hit her once or twice there while she's summoning them, and then you just want to run. And then also you need to just watch the ground to make sure you're not going to run into any void tendrils popping up from the ground, because that would be unfortunate. Really, if you can get through the first like 1 or 2 phases, ironically, like I said, the 3rd and 4th phase are a little easier if you can calm your nerves, because ironically the nerves are the worst part of this for obvious reasons. Something else I figured out is that every time Lace lands a parry, or like a parry connects, you always want to jump right after it, because if she does the grounded counter attack, you can jump over her, hit her from behind, that sounds weird, and then continue, and then if she does the aerial counter attack, you can just jump away from her because you're already in the air, and then you can hit her as she lands. So that's a good opportunity to get 1 or 2 hits in. You just need to make sure to always be ready for her to counter, if that makes any sense. Then also when she does her triple slash forward, you want to jump because the hitbox doesn't go as high as you think it does. It's kind of confusing. Lots of things about this fight, to be honest, just kind of come down to having a feel for it. It's hard to explain verbally, and it looks a little awkward when you're watching footage of it, but trust me, as you practice, the fight will get easier. Again, I'm saying that like anyone will do this. I'm like one of the only people who's ever going to try this. I don't know what I'm doing. Eventually, Lace goes down, and we've officially completed the challenge. I'm very thankful I was able to finish this challenge, because I'm going to be honest, I was kind of losing interest in it. The only reason I even did this video at all was just because I promised you all that I would do it, and I don't like breaking promises. And again, like I said, I wasn't even expecting to have to do this in the first place, so maybe that played into it a little bit. I have other ideas for Silksong challenges I want to do, but I'm glad this one is done for now. Maybe I'll come back whenever the DLC for Silksong eventually comes out, and I'll come back to the Cursed Crest and play the game again, but for now I'd like to do some other Silksong challenges that aren't Cursed related. I did appreciate that this challenge required me to actually learn a lot more about the boss's movesets, so that was good at least. I just am a bit nervous about publishing the video because I'm worried it wasn't good enough, and I know not as many people are going to watch it anyway, so that's also kind of doing a hit on my morale, but that doesn't matter. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you are here and you are watching this, I hope that this was good enough, and I hope that this was worth the wait, even though it's only been like a week or whatever. But regardless, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please consider commenting, and subscribing, all that good stuff. Suggest any other challenge ideas you have down below, and I'll try to read and respond to as many of your comments as I can. Or at least, like, acknowledge them with, like, the little heart button. With all that being said, I hope you all have a good day, and good night. Or good morning. I don't know what time of day you're going to end up watching this video. I should probably shut up.